Afternoon, Chair. 1 minute to go, and ICT is ready with YouTube.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hassan Musa, everyone online. Thank you very much. Once again, good afternoon, everyone. Ms. Hassan Musa, I just want to confirm if you can hear me.
Chair, you audible?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, honorable members, Minister, HOD officials, and if we are joined by any members of the public this afternoon, a warm word of welcome to you as well. This is the Standing Committee on Education, scheduled for the 1st of September 2026, where the committee will be briefed by the WCED on the education quality provided by 343 ECD centers compared to grade R in public schools, and what the educational differences between grade R learners in the 343 ECD centers and those in public schools, and how those are differently managed, as well as on how the WCED collaborates with municipalities and non-governmental organizations to ensure early childhood development facilities meet the compliance and registration standards. The briefing should or will also include the support and resources offered by the department to assist these facilities to adhere to health and safety regulations. Before we get started, I have received a few requests from members of the public who wish to make inputs. I can assure you that you will have the opportunity to do so after the committee's deliberations. We will afford you the opportunity once we've concluded our official committee business. Members, before we get started, just in terms of apologies, we have just received one apology from member Syed, but I am aware that member Rachel Windvogel will be standing in for member Syed. Members, we will now do a brief round of introductions, starting with the members first. My name is Peter Johnson, and I am the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Education. It is also my privilege this afternoon to also welcome the newly appointed Minister of Education, Minister Jaco Lont. This is also the Minister's first appearance in front of the Standing Committee. We all know Minister Lont. He's been in the cabinet for almost 2.5 years now as the Minister of Social Development. And we look forward to also working with Minister Lont, that brings over 2 decades of experience in government to this committee. Members, I will afford you the opportunity to introduce yourselves first, and then I'll hand over to Minister Lont for opening remarks and introductions of his team this afternoon. Members, over to you.
Good afternoon. I'm Benedicta van Minnen. I'm a member of this committee, and I really want to say happy Spring Day and welcome to Minister Lont. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Chair, colleagues, officials, members of the public. I am Member Boyson, and I'm glad to be back again in this committee. Thank you. I'm as new as the Minister. Thank you.
Afternoon, Chairperson and members. And my name is Philin Christians. I'm a member of this committee, and I had the privilege to go with Minister to the National Teaching Awards where he invited me. Thank you, Minister, and welcome.
I'm Thomas Walters. I'm a member of this committee.
Good afternoon, Chair and everyone. My name is Rachel Van Vogel and I'm an alternative member to this committee, and congratulations, Minister, with your new position. Thank you.
I'm Sammy Claassen. I'm a new member to this committee. This is also my first committee meeting. And congratulations to the newly appointed Minister for Education in the Western Cape. En ek wil Jacolont, alles van die beste.
Thank you very much, members. Baie welkom ook aan lid Sammy Claassen. I also believe that this is your first official education committee meeting. Minister Lont, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good afternoon to all the committee members. I want to thank you for the warm welcome. I have worked with some of the committee members in my previous role, and I am looking forward to also build the same working relationship with this committee. As a member Christians has said, I did invite some of the committee members, Member Johnson, Member Syed, to join me on Friday. Of course, I will try and endeavor to have that working relationship that I had on the other side as well with the members here. Fully aware that you will keep us on our toes, but also knowing that all of us, we've got a responsibility to make sure that the politics do not impact the learning of our students. To the WCED members or officials, I'm going to ask that they introduce themselves. But thank you so much for the warm welcome up to this point, and I'm looking forward to working with you. So HOD Walters, to you and your team, thank you so much, and I'm going to hand over to you. And then if the chair would permit, then you can also direct who will be doing the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Good afternoon, Chairperson and members of the committee. With your permission, I would ask Mr. Meyer and Dr. Muller and the others on the line to please introduce themselves. And just to indicate, Chair, Mr. Meyer will be doing the presentation. But good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Minister. Good afternoon, members from a very warm Citrusdal, where we're meeting with some of our district directors today. With me today is Dr. Nadine Muller, who is the Chief Director for Specialized Education, ECD, as well as NSNP program, who will be doing the presentations today. With us also is Mrs. Ruth Lucas, who is our technical specialist and the director for ECD, also on this particular call. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
Chairperson?
Yes, over to you.
Could I just ask that the other members, there are other members of our staff also on the line, if they could just introduce themselves, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Ruth Lucas, Director, Early Childhood.
Good afternoon. I'm Marita Tue, Chief Education Specialist responsible for foundation phase.
Good afternoon. Noel Peterson. I am Director for Institutional Management and Governance.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Karen Dudley, Director, GET Curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Chairperson, with your permission, we can hand back to Mr. Meyer. If that's in order with you.
Thank you, HOD. Over to you, Mr. Meyer.
Thank you, Chairperson. Will your staff be flighting the presentation, please? Chairperson, is Washim going to do the show the presentation, or must we?
Let me just confirm with Ms. Hassan Musa. Just give me a second or two. I have her on the line. Apparently, she says that the department. Oh, there we go. Ms. Hassan Musa. I think I've just seen your message.
Hi, Chair. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, it was informed in the letter that the department will flight the presentation.
No problem. Thank you, Chairperson. We'll do so.
Oh, there we go. Thank you very much. We can see it.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Dr. Muller will now take over. Thank you.
Good afternoon, colleagues, and all the protocol observed to all the senior members, honorable members of the committee, and members of the public. The presentation will essentially be responding to the requests for further clarity around matters relating to early childhood development and grade R, with the following. I'm just waiting for my slides to move. There we go. So this was essentially the overview of the requests that came through for clarity and further information. They were twofold. The first, which the chairperson has already alluded to, talks to the focus on a comparative analysis of the provision of ECD of grade R within ECD centers versus grade R as it is provided within our public school space. So the first half of the presentation will focus on the differences that focus essentially on key variables, which I'll outline in a minute. The second half of the presentation talks to the matter of collaboration and compliance. Collaboration, yes.
Apologies for interrupting you, Dr.
No
Muller.
problem.
I just want to confirm there is a hand raised by a Tomosa. I'm not sure. I can't see anything more. Tomosa, if you can hear me, I don't know if that's by accident. See your hand is raised, but perhaps it's if you can hear me, I'll just lower your hand for now. Apologies, Dr. Mudla, back to you.
No problem. So as I was saying, the second half of the presentation will then focus on the matters relating to collaboration and compliance and how it is that the WCED is engaging with municipalities and NGOs in particular around various aspects of grade R provision within the province. And the tail end of the presentation will talk specifically to the request for information surrounding support around health and safety regulations within the province. Let me then move on to the comparative analysis. We are wanting to clarify matters relating to differences around, as you will see on this slide, relating to the provision of grade R within ECD centers. And the slide outlines the number of grade R learners within ECD centers totaling at the moment 10,112 versus those in public schools in excess of 75,000 learners. And this is at within the last month within the grade R public school space. The second row talks to sites. Grade R sites within ECD centers. The last set of data that was provided that was available to us on EduInfo search refers to 318 registered sites. This differs from the letter, the total that was captured in the letter we received from the Standing Committee, which was 343. And Ms. Lucas will refer to this later if needs be for clarity, but I think it has to do with data that was available at the time when the Standing Committee's letter came through, which was referring to data that was available at that point versus what is currently kind of apparent in the sector. The decrease in the number of grade R sites within ECD centers is as a consequence of the move of grade R from the private sector into the public school sector, as according to the amended South African Schools Act, where ECD centers are slowly beginning to, if I can use the phrase loosely, let go of grade R, so that we can find learners and parents moving their children into public school sites. On the right-hand side, in the right-hand column, grade R sites within the public school space. Currently a total of 1,126 public school sites, and these are divided as follows. We have 1,098 in the mainstream public ordinary schools, 8 pre-primary schools. So this is an anomaly of sorts where we have schools, only 8 of them in the province, catering for 319 learners who are basically in schools that are catering for pre-grade R and grade R. And then there are 20 special schools that are catering for 116 learners within the grade R space. With regard to curriculum delivery and resourcing, the differences within the ECD space versus public schools are as follows. Essentially, the curriculum that's delivered within the ECD space is still falling within what is described as a WCED recognized curriculum. We are expecting ECD centers to comply within a CAPS, Montessori. Those are some examples of the different forms or formats that curriculum is delivered in. And these are all linked to the formal registration of the ECD Center, which Ms. Lucas will talk to in the second half of the presentation. Within public schools, all schools are expected to follow the CAPS foundation phase curriculum according to the annual teaching plans. And this is expected as a standard across the country. So this is not a WCED expectation, it is a national norm. In terms of resourcing, and here we're talking about learning and teaching support materials, within ECD centers, primarily you're looking at resourcing being center or parent funded. There is also a subsidization from the WCED, and this links with the mass registration drive that we have launched some 2 to 3 years ago when ECD moved over from the Department of Social Development. Within public schools, resourcing is state-funded completely within Section 21 allocations. So to move then, if those are the differences, the Standing Committee's request was for us to unpack and help members and the public to understand how these differences are currently being managed as we continue to navigate the shift and incorporate the shift for ECD into the education space, into the WCED, as well as nationally within the Department of Basic Education. But the second level is around the implementation of the South African Schools Act as amended, where grade R is now compulsory. Many will have understood this to be Bella implementation is often how it's spoken about. So how the differences are managed, we want to allude to 6 key areas, 3 of them on this slide and 3 to follow. So in the category registration and compliance, how the differences are managed between grade R in ECD centers and grade R in public schools. Registration within ECD centers is essentially if an ECD center is offering grade R, there is an expectation that they will be required in due course to register themselves as independent schools under SASSA's Section 46, and that they are currently being guided through a progression through the WCED compliance pathway from bronze to silver to gold certification. Within public schools, as was mentioned previously, these schools will fall automatically under the South African Schools Act. So there's no separate registration process required. If a school did not have grade R up until a particular point, they apply for what is referred to as a curriculum extension to add grade R to the offerings within the school. And then that is not dealt with separately from the rest of the curriculum that's offered within the school. Secondly, to talk to funding and how the differences around funding are managed. As mentioned earlier, primarily you've got self or parent funded spaces within ECD. That's how grade R is funded. I've mentioned this before, the WCED does support registration and compliance costs via the mass registration drive and with funding within the public school. Obviously, if grade R is part of the formal structure of the primary school, then that forms within the norms and standards funding as the school would be receiving it as is. Thirdly, practitioner qualifications. This is an area of challenge. It is something that we are working hard on to ensure consistency across the sector. Within ECD centers, a sector-wide qualifications register is being built via the bronze to gold pathway. Nationally, there is a support for practitioners and upskilling of practitioners, but within the WCED, we are doing running a number of short courses, webinars, etc., to help to support practitioners within the ECD space. Within public schools, there is a tracking of educator practitioner qualifications within the grade R space. There is a collective agreement that is demanding an upgrading of qualifications. The Provincial Education Department, WCED, but across the country, fall within a support mechanism established by the DBE, where we have both provincial as well as self-funded pathways for practitioners who are looking to upskill themselves and to increase and elevate their qualifications. The DBE has identified 3 key HEIs, as mentioned in the slide, and those are the HEIs that are currently registering students who are eligible for upgrading their qualifications. The next 3, in terms of managing differences, talk to curriculum and LTSMs. The expectation within the schooling space and within the ECD space is that all grade R practitioners, teachers are expected to implement a WCED recognized curriculum. Support is provided for this through various training and upskilling, capacity building activities and exercises that are held within the WCED, mostly run within the CTLI, but there are also opportunities for all grade R practitioners to access CAPS-aligned LTSMs via an e-portal which is 0 rated and available to the public at large. Our curriculum colleagues on the call, I'm sure, will be able to expand on the details around what is offered within the CAPS, ELIT, and R Maths spaces. I'm almost at the end in terms of the differences and how those are managed. Let's talk to infrastructure and support mechanisms. Centers are responsible for their own facilities. So ECD centers are expected to ensure that infrastructure is meeting the necessary health and safety standards. This is monitored through the bronze to silver to gold registration process. The WCED also provides support by delivering support through the registration site visits. So they are monitoring and evaluation site visits. Health and safety packs are provided to ECD centers, and there's a funding allocation around that over the next few years as well. There's an e-case self-assessment guidance that's provided against national norms and standards. So an ECD center is able to engage in a self-assessment in order to be able to identify what the expectations are for compliance and then better able to understand how it is that they need to be enhancing their centers to ensure that they meet the required regulations. Finally, around governance and district support, within the districts, we do have grade R managers, also referred to as grade R coordinators, who provide some level of training, capacity building, and monitoring support, particularly to grade R teachers within public schools. Capacity constraints make this difficult within the thousands of ECD centers, but there is focused input on subsidy use, resourcing, qualifications, curriculum, and governance across all the registered sites once they move from bronze to silver and then into gold certification. So I'm going to hand over to our Director ECD, Ms. Lucas, to talk to issues relating to collaboration and compliance.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muller. In the early childhood development space, in terms of the mass registration drive, we use social sector organizations to assist facilities through the three stages of certification. So the first stage is the bronze stage, which is entry level. It is telling WCED and the officials where you are. We also do a self-assessment within this certification, and 9 documents needs to be prepared with the help of the social sector organization. In stage 2, we do silver registration, which is a 2 to 3 year certificate. It builds on the requirements that we have already received on the e-care system. We visit the ECD center. It is visited by the WCED officials, the environmental health professionals seated in the health department, but also in the city of Cape Town. 9 documents are uploaded onto the e-case, and that 9 documents are reviewed and assessed for either silver registration, which would be, your certificate would be between 2 to 3 years, based on what we have found in our evaluation. Full registration is when you have met all of the requirements of norms and standards for your facility, and it is the highest compliance tier. And so we're trying to move our ECD centers from bronze to silver and then silver to gold, because it makes it cost effective for our officials to be working in a 5-year cycle than a 3-year cycle. Can we move on? So the mass registration drive focuses primarily on the registration of the facility, and through that we have to look at everything that is making the facility compliant for the child. It is also important that we do this through mass registration drives for unregistered ECD centers and for registered ECD centers. We direct them, and we also participate and collaborate with our local municipalities. It is a multi-level government coordination. We work with the EHP, which is your environmental health practitioner, and we also inspect if they are compliant with health and safety regulations. The certificates are checked, whether the building plans are there. We also have our assessors working on the e-care system in the background. The WCED officials are normally joined by the EHP, and they conduct the visit simultaneously, which never happened before. So that is part of the mass registration drive, so that we can get as many of our centers to full registration, and also to show that government is working together in terms of municipalities and the WCD. Can move to the next slide. We deliver this mass registration drive and the checks and balances around registration via our eCares online system. It is a system that will be built out to, I think, work with all the functions within early childhood development, which eventually will do the funding, we will do all of our norms and standards checking, and also the monitoring on this eCare system. So for now, we have the registration. We also look to see from the self-assessment of the ECD center, who needs health and safety packs and who needs a formal visit, of urgent formal visit regarding norms and standards. The guidelines in terms of the norms and standards from a national platform and provincial platform is then, I want to say, shared with all of the players, the stakeholders within early childhood development, which covers all of the bylaws within the municipalities. And then we also look at housing, the zoning, housing, the building plans of the institution, all part of the online system. This is our dashboard that we have developed, or National has developed. But as you can see, the WCD was given a target last year of 2,000. We have exceeded that target by a total of 3,815 applications. We have processed 3,142 applications. The incomplete applications are the ones, the ECD centers that have come on. So we know where we are. We are following up on them on a daily basis via our, with our data capturers, via telephone, via visits with EHPs to see that they can come and complete their application on the system. We have approved for them to move to Silver 2,480. That was when we focused primarily on the bronze registration. If we go to the next slide, you will notice that we have moved quite a number of our bronze applicants into silver, and we have approved 2,834. Now, when we say that we have approved them, they have not had a site visit yet. So with all of our 29 teams on the ground, we have done 887 assessments, completed assessments. And that means that we have been able to put more ECD centers onto our funding grids for this year. You will also notice that there is a table for the Western Cape only per district and how far we track the applications and the site visit completion on this eCares app. Move on. Registration, funding, and the targeting that we will support ECD centers with in 2026. Registration compliance is very important, is that in order for you to receive funding from the WCED, you have to be compliant. And that compliance entails that you have to give us a quarterly report. You also have to have your learners on our Schedule A so that we can see that the numbers that we pay for are accurate. In terms of the eCares guidance, there are tools available, QR codes, there's a self-assessment tool, and it's at no cost to anybody. We also do the formal visit, whereby we have quite a team going out, and if we are not ready by the first visit, we give you numerous opportunities and numerous visits to come to up to speed and compliant. In terms of our core operational costs, you will know that many of our ECDs are funded by WCED, but they're also parent funded. Unlike public ordinary schools, centers or public schools that are funded only by the WCED, in most cases in no-fee schools, but we also have in our ECD, some of our ECD centers not receiving funding from parents. So they are totally funded by WCD. The support regarding health and safety regulations, that's a key for us. We have given 419 packs already provided to ECD centers that we really felt needed to move from bronze to silver and to make them compliant. The packs cover hygiene, safety, equipment in terms of, and the readiness that is required via their self-assessment and the assessment on site against the norms and standards for the facility. We have done quite a lot within the space of 2 years. We now have on our books 5,036 ECD centers where we know where they are. We have a lot of data on them, and we are moving them through the process of bronze, silver, and gold to get to the status that we want them to be. Move on. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ms. Leekes, as well as Dr. Mula and Mr. Meyer for the presentation. Members, we will now start with the questions based on presentations. Based on the presentation, and once we've concluded the deliberations, we will then afford members of the public the opportunity for inputs. Members, you can raise your hand. I see Member Christians as the first member. Member Christians, over to you.
Chair, how many questions per member? Can I just give questions? What is your limit?
Member Christians, I think let's start with 3 questions for the first round per member, just so that we don't lose any of the questions.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentation. I don't know if Mr. Meyer can recall, most probably last year, I don't know if it's this year, I had a concern between the ECDs and the public schools offering grade R. And the answer he gave the committee at that time was it will be too costly to move all the ECDs centers over to public schools. I see the amount is 10,112, and it's 318 sites. Is there some movement to make sure, and what is the period of time to move learners, grade R learners, into public schools? Is there that possibility? Is there a period of time where the department is looking at doing that? Because I still believe, and I know, I'm really saying, I know that the WCED is doing all its power to make sure that ECDs is on a good standard, but I still believe that, you know, they're not equal. It's not on the same standard. And I'm concerned about the qualifications of the people there when it comes to ECD practitioners. Now, I know that Dr. Bula said that there's short courses and webinars and training, but if you look at the public schools, there's a concerted effort to upgrade educators. That's a concern to me, that, you know, there's the ECD is not as qualified as what the public schools grade R is. That's according to me. Maybe they can prove me wrong. And then my third question, Chairperson, what is it's worrying, and I know that they have presented, you know, the facilities is checked and all of that. The question that I want to ask is, these facilities, the ECD facilities that they do check, that they do check, if they do not look at moving, and we talk about the health, when they move from a bronze to a silver to a gold. Say, for instance, they give that ECD 6 months or whatever the case may to comply when it comes to health and safety standards, when it comes to those type of things. If they do not comply in the prescribed time, what happens? And if it should, if it's so bad and must be shut down, where does that learners go? Chair, I've got more questions, but I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Christians. Member Van Vogel.
Thank you so much, Chair, and let me also welcome the presentation of the department. Chair, I want to understand from the department how many children should actually be in grade R. The department reports 75,000 grade R learners in public schools and 10,000 plus in ECD centers, and that given a total of 85,000. So what is the WCED's official estimate of the total number of children resident in the Western Cape who are of compulsory grade R age in 2026, taking account of birth and also the inter-provincial migration and the international migration? So what percentage of eligible children is there for enroll in grade R, and how many compulsory grade R age children does WCED estimate are currently outside the grade R? Then, Chair, I also want to understand from the department, national, when it comes to the grants, ECD grants, national government has allocated approximately 442 million to the Western Cape through the ECD grant for 2026-2027 book year, including approximately 408 million for subsidies. So how much of this allocation has WCED received and spent to date, and how much has actually been transferred to the ECD program? Then lastly, Chair, the 10,000 grade R learners at ECD centers, of the 10,000 grade R learners attending ECD centers, reflects in this presentation how many receive an ECD subsidy, and then grade R subsidy or another form of direct state funding, and how many receive no direct state funding. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Member Van Vogel. HOD, Mr. Meyer, I'm not sure if one of you can direct the questions to the officials online.
Yeah. So
how will you handle? There we go. Thank you,
Yeah.
HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. Maybe we can ask between Dr. Mula and Ms. Lucas to attempt to answer some of the questions. I do want to point out that where the questions involve like how many grade R learners at ECD centers, if they have that information, Chairperson, we will give it specifically. Where the question was potentially about how many we currently think are sitting outside, we can only go on stats, and I will give a figure here, but that I will follow up that figure. I prefer to give that figure properly to the committee to say that that is what our statisticians have said. This is actually the figure. By a rough estimate, it could be about 10,000 that still need to be accommodated in grade R that we can't account for. But Chairperson, I do not want to be held to that figure. I would like to give that answer in writing, if that is possible, so that we give a proper, ask our statisticians to give a proper answer to that. I think at the moment our approach in this area is whoever shows up, we obviously make a plan to accommodate them. And that's really what the system has been moving towards. We do know it's in a period of transition, And so we have to have a level of flexibility as we try and accommodate both grade R and ECD into a stable, and we're still at the early stages. But having said that, perhaps between Dr. Muller and the two presenters, Chair, if they could perhaps answer the questions. Thank you.
Chair, may I proceed?
Yes,
Yes,
please
please,
do
Dr. Muller.
so, Dr. Mullah. And if there's anything that you do not have the stats with you, you can just sort of draw our attention to that, and we can add it to the committee resolutions and request the information in writing from the department. Thank you.
Excellent, thanks. So I think perhaps the response to member Christians around the 318 sites and the possibility of moving the learners over, as the SG mentioned, our expectation and our advocacy has been to parents to indicate that grade R is now compulsory, as according to Bella and the South African Schools Act as amended, which means that we are expecting parents to enroll their children within public ordinary or public special schools, and therefore will accommodate grade R learners across the board. In terms of a timeline and making sure that all learners are within the public school space, to some degree that makes it difficult to kind of put a timeline on that, but essentially our applications opened as colleagues on the call will know, and we are currently processing admissions into grade R as we speak. The second issue related to the grade R teacher qualifications and what's expected, and member Christian's concern about the quality of your practitioner in the ECD space versus the public school space. Our drive certainly is to move as many, if not all, of our grade R practitioners into a space within the public school space where they are expected to have a full qualification. Be it foundation phase is what's expected of them. What we at the moment need to be navigating is how we implement a compulsory move around that. There is a timeline around the moratorium on qualifications for your grade R practitioner, in that we are not wanting for people to be exited from the system without support. So ECD centers are certainly informed what the compliance and requirements are for the grade R teacher. So they may have an underqualified person supporting children in the 0 to 4 space, but even there, our energy is intended to be exerted to see some shifts along those lines. In terms of compliance, I'm going to leave that to Ms. Lucas to respond to. In other words, because we had a similar challenge within the independent school space. You go in, you do a monitoring visit, a school doesn't comply with certain aspects, and then you give them a 90-day or 6-month leeway to rectify that, and what happens thereafter. Ms. Lucas can respond to that, but while I have the floor, if I can just perhaps provide a tentative response to Member Van Vogel's question around how many children should actually be in grade R. What we're working with at the moment is we do unfortunately have to work with projections. So we are currently planning for approximately 100,000 because we're working off the number of grade 1 learners who are currently in 2026 within our system. So we kind of working on guesstimates, if one wants to put it that way. So I would not put my head on the block around actual numbers, but that's what we are preparing for by way of sites, as in classroom availability, teachers availability, and so on. That's the plan tentatively that we're looking at for 2027. Those numbers will only be actually confirmed once we hit 2027 and parents actually come on board come February, as late into March potentially. But we will, every child will have to be taken care of in the way that we need.
Thank you, Chairperson. I will just ask Ms. Almaret to come in on Member Ferlin Christian's question on the quality of learners coming from the ECDs, where he indicated the teachers were not as qualified as what they were in the public schools. Almaret, can you come in?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, obviously, a practitioner that doesn't have the B.Ed degree will not have the same quality of teaching because of the qualifications. So that is why we are encouraging our grade R practitioners to get the B.Ed degree. And I must say, big shifts has been made in this area. But there is a difference between learners coming over from a class where the practitioners are not having the proper qualification. We are, however, providing training that is open for all teachers and practitioners to attend, to capacitate them to the best, to support them until they could manage to get their qualification.
Thank you. Ms. Lucas, can you come in now?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of ECD, I'll speak to the ECD facilities that were visited and they might not have met the standard, and even given health and safety packs. There is a timeline in terms of the certificate that they get, and also it's detailed on the certificate what needs to be done for them to move to the next level. It is in that period that we do monitor, and because we have an online system, it's easier for us to monitor because the system keeps a track of that registration that was given, and so they get a follow-up visit. The issue is sometimes with early childhood development centers, they have so many costs attached to all of the municipal certificates that they must have, and it is quite astronomical, but we hoping to be able to speak into that in the near future to help them along with getting to the point where they can actually get to the next level, which is silver or gold registration. So there is a period, but they are monitored. And once they have achieved that, it's a celebration for us because we then know that they have achieved health and safety and the norms and standards for early childhood development centers. We also, I just want to mention that in terms of the money spent to date, we have spent just on subsidies, and our budget doesn't only consist of subsidies, but just on subsidies over 167 million rand towards subsidies that have been given out to ECD centers. Maybe for the house, we just need to mention that in order for you to get a subsidy, we have to upskill you or capacitate you, and we also have to see that you maintain compliance within that space to receive funding.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think we've covered all the questions of the first round. Thank you.
Thank you, HOD. I think there was a question missed from Member Windvogel about the allocations from national to the province. I'm not sure if you caught that one. Otherwise, I'll just ask the member to repeat that question.
Ms. Lucas did indicate that already that 167 million has already been spent on the ECD centers from that 442 million grant. But I'll ask Ms. Lucas just to come in again and with the numbers.
So for the conditional grant, we have received the 418 million, but that is also for our employment. There are various lines for that budget. So it isn't also just registration or subsidization that we have to pay from there. And so we'll give a breakdown of the money spent exactly to the date later on.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Lekas. Members, second round of questions. Member Christians.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. And Chair, I just want to know, is the WCED aware of unregistered ECDs? How many are they, and what are they doing to get them registered? I'm talking about unregistered, that they have not applied the branch, or it's unregistered ECDs. If they're aware, how many are they? And then also, I want to know that when you look at the ECD, so if we look at the public schools, grade R, they are fully state funded and not the ECDs. It's parent funded and also WCD funded. What does ECD do if they want to get funded from the WCD because of a lack of parent funding? And then my third question, Chair, is that when you look at the ECDs, the curriculum is the CAPS, it's the Montessori, the Waldorf, and then if you look at public schools, it's only CAPS. Now, I want to know why is there a difference between the two? Because we know the Waldorf method is a different method to the CAPS method, and it's a different method to the Montessori method. I don't want to go into detail, but there is a difference with the different methods. And of course, when you enter into grade 1, you go into a CAPS curriculum. So I want to know why the difference between the two, and why is the ECDs not on the CAPS method? And if the department can explain that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Christians. Member Van Vogel, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I'm actually partly covered by Member Furlan, but mine on the funding inequality. The WCED presentation state that grade R in public schools is state funded, while the core operation cost of ECD centers remain primarily center and parent funded. Now that grade R is compulsory, does the WCED believe it is equitable that a child attending compulsory grade R at an ECD center may receive materially less public funding than a child attending grade R at a public school? What is the WCED's plan and time frame to address these differences? And do we have enough grade R classes for 2027? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Van Vogel. Any other members for a third question before I hand over to the department? I think this is a legacy hand from Member Van Vogel. There we go. Okay, I don't see any further hands. HOD, over to you and your team, or Ms. Lekas, if you are going to answer these questions.
Thank you, Chairperson. We will ask Ms. Lucas to answer, supported by Mr. Meyer and Dr. Muller. But I think the first thing perhaps that I just want to say is that I think we just need to appreciate, Chairperson, that we have been saying all along we need a runway to be able to move to compulsory nature of grade R. That was our first statement as a department. It's an education shift. We've got to progressively realize it, because I'm talking about from an educational point of view, and I'm not talking about the law and the law that was passed. A part of the caution that we had indicated at the time was that to immediately realize something cannot be done immediately in education. that's to be progressively realized. So having said that, I wanted to say that because in the beginning I was asked how many children do I think are outside of the net. And clearly, I think the assurance that we want to give the committee is that whatever children present, the department will accommodate those children. So in the beginning, in the first round of questions, we were asked the question, how many grade R's do we think are not showing up? And I put the figure of 10,000, it's an estimate. That figure could be more or less. What the assurance that I do want to give committees that the department, if those children do show up, we'll make a plan, chairperson. So it's about us almost looking at the stats now, deciding on the trends. We do expect that number of children who are, we're not sure whether they're in private ECD, we can't count in there, they're not in a public, not in private grade R and not in public grade R. We expect that that number will become less and less over time. So that's the first thing I do want to say. So when we were asked about time frames, I think the assurance that we will give the committee is that every learner who does present will be presented with a place. I think that's all we can say because at the moment we're not certain and the whole country is uncertain. We also think that as it becomes popularized in every single community, that grade R is now a grade that is entry to our system. We see that gap become smaller over time. I just wanted to say that I think in relation to grade R, but maybe Ms. Lucas and between Ms. Lucas and Dr. Muller can answer the questions about ECT, number of unregistered ECTs. I'm not sure if we have that information at our fingertips, so maybe just to talk about our processes in that regard. And then any other questions that I haven't answered, Dr. Muller or Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, HOD. Chairperson, I'll ask Dr. Muller to deal with the first questions around the curriculum matters, and then I will ask Mrs. Lucas to come in on the number of registered and unregistered. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. I think regarding the matter of curriculum, I think it's important just to understand that when one speaks about a curriculum, there's content and then there's a delivery methodology. So CAPS is not really a method of teaching. I suppose it's time for, we would need to have time for a different kind of conversation that talks to the fact that the methodology may be slightly different, but essentially what a Montessori or Waldorf curriculum is, it is not, if that is what may be implied at times, watered down in any way. And certainly the CAPS curriculum, and I'm sure my curriculum colleagues on the call will defend this to no end, the CAPS curriculum has a particular content focus, but is certainly learner-centered, which is what you are expecting within the foundation phase, whether in an ECD center or within the public space. So that's just to cover Member Christian's concern around the curriculum differentiation. I'm not sure.
Colleagues, please just check that you are muted. I can hear some background noises. There we go. Thank you. Apologies, Dr. Muller, back to you.
No problem. And then I'll touch on the issue of unregistered centers and then hand over to Ms. Lucas to respond further. In terms of numbers, I think it's an extremely, and I'm sure colleagues on the call will or members on the call will understand that in order for us to actually be able to pinpoint an absolute number of unregistered centers is almost an impossibility. Those of us who live in communities will know there will be a neighbor down the road who suddenly becomes unemployed or retires and decides that just because they love children, they'll open up a little center and will be looking after children in the neighborhood. So what we are relying on is the integrity of an ECD center owner to be able to do what we would regard as the right thing as per the law of the country, which is to make an effort to become a registered center. If they want funding, then the expectation is that they are expected to move towards compliance before they receive funding. So the WCED, via the grants received from the National Department of Basic Education, we will without doubt support an ECD center, but can only do so if they fulfill the requirements via registration and compliance, which Ms. Lucas outlined earlier in the presentation. Ruth, I'll hand over to you just perhaps to expand a little bit further on, whether you want to say a little bit more around if they're wanting funding, what exactly is needed in a practical way for an ECD center to be able to come on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Muller. In terms of the unregistered, we have a lot of pop-up ECD centers. That is why we, in collaboration with our SSOs, who are our foot soldiers on the ground, and it is through them walking alongside these pop-up or unregistered centers that we get them to registration and onto the e-care system. And I think that the e-care system has now increased from the 2021 ECD census to 5,036 ECD centers. That was never before recorded. We actually getting to the real crux of the matter of how many are unregistered on the ground, but they are on a daily basis. You will find that there are new ECD centers just popping up. It is also, we would be able to give you some stats around that in the future, around the unregistered that have not come onto the e-cares, because that is what our social partners do for us. They record all of those unregistered centers. Then in terms of funding, if an ECD needs funding from WCED, they need to be registered and they need to go through the process of registration. When they get to silver registration, there is obviously, once they have become compliant, we can then give them funding, but we cannot give them funding if they have not started on the mass registration drive. So funding compliance is important because that is part of our processes. In terms of an ELP, an early learning program within early childhood development, there are hundreds of ELPs. Those are written for children from birth to 5 years old, and it is executed by the owner of the Early Childhood Development Center. They decide which ELP is going to be used in their center. We register the ELP, and there is a criteria. The criteria is that you use the National Curriculum Framework, Birth to 4, which is the overarching framework that speaks to what we want for young children as an outcome in South Africa. And it is through that registration process that we see that whatever program you are going to administer to young children, that they actually speak to the tenets, to the early learning developmental areas of the National Curriculum Framework. So that is where we intercede or really come and look at the programs and see if they are of a high quality for our children in early childhood development. I think that if I speak to, if you understand the landscape, we're talking about two very different landscapes. Early childhood development is privately owned by individual people, trusts, maybe conglomerates. They own the space in terms of that. As the WCED, we intercede as the regulator, looking at the policy and the legislative framework, and we enforce that so that ECD centers are compliant for our children.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chairperson, I just wanted to check if my colleagues, there was, I think Mr. Lucas now touched on the question of curricula because it was sort of asked. I know the Waldorf system is a system of teaching, but I don't know if Corin or Aletta, if they have anything else that they can say on the question that Mr. Christians asked about the curriculum, because we do follow the CAPS curriculum, and I speak under correction. My experts on the line can correct me, but in grade R, we're also using, I guess, the CAPS curriculum. I don't know if Ms. Dudley or Mr. Toy want to add anything to that.
Yes, thank you, HOD. We do use the CAPS curriculum. It's written in terms of various phases. And in the foundation phase, it's written for grade R to grade 3. So all our public ordinary schools follow the CAPS curriculum. There are private schools who do as well, HOD, and members on the platform here. However, the private schools are allowed to use either an IEB or they follow the Montessori model. And the Montessori model has different outcomes, which is not aligned to the national department or to the CAPS curriculum. So I think I don't know if Almaret would like to add, but it is a recognized pedagogy, but it's not a recognized pedagogy for the South African context of public ordinary schools. It has a different approach, etc. And it can be quite an expensive approach, and even the assessment thereof is different because it is aimed at children learning at their own pace, at their own ability, and the timetable and the subject approach is also different in terms of the pedagogy. So public ordinary schools, grade R to 3, CAPS curriculum. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Dudley. Chairperson, it's back to you.
Thank you, HOD. Members, I'm looking at you for a final round of questions. I just want to check. There is a Mr. Peterson. Before I hand over to you, Member Christians, for a new question, I just want to check if Mr. Noel Peterson would like to add to the previous discussion. Mr. Peterson.
Yes, thank you. I'm just speaking from Ms. Lucas's machine here at the moment. We're in one venue. I just want to also emphasize that while grade R institutions can apply for certification, especially ECD ones now, and follow a particular curriculum like Montessori or Waldorf and whatever. But with registration and for compliance sake, our officials ensure that they have to indicate how that curriculum ties in with the CAPS outcomes and how it links to the desired CAPS framework as well, so that there is a level of alignment while they are doing a different pedagogy in delivery of the curriculum, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Members, third round of questions. Member Christians, you can kick us off.
Thank you, Chair. It's my last 3 years. Yes, that is what I wanted to. I think Mr. Peterson maybe answered what I wanted to know, because we fully understand that ECDs, it's private owned, it's a trust. We fully understand that. My concern was that when you go to a public ordinary school for grade 1, you only get CAPS. Now you go to an ECD, maybe of choice or not, maybe not of your own choice, or maybe of your own choice, one of the two. I'm concerned, and that was maybe answered. My concern was if they go into grade 1, will they then, it's a more difficult for them to catch up with the CAPS curriculum, and is it linked? Will it assist them going forward? When you have the Montessori, the Waldorf, and the CAPS at the one end, and here it seems to me that children at public schools are advantaged because we can say whatever we want, but there's different ways of teaching and different outcomes when it comes to the Waldorf, the Montessori, and the CAPS. I just wanted to mention that. And then I said, Why? Because the WCED also look at, as it was mentioned, at regulation, you know. So do they then, because you want to make sure that the child is prepared when they go to grade 1. I also want to know, I don't know, I could not find the statistics, but maybe you have the statistics. If you look at ECDs, what is the throughput from, is the children held back at ECDs? And I see when you do some research, they say that when you look at public schools, the throughput rate is about almost 100%. Is it the same as ECDs? You know, children held back because they're not ready. If the department can just maybe elaborate on that, because we know early childhood development and the foundation phase is the most important period of a child's life. So I'm asking all of these questions because I want our learners, when they ECD or at the public school, that they are prepared for grade 1 and that they will continue, hopefully, to matric. So that is just my line of questioning. Is not to be funny, but just to make sure that our children are equipped to deal with what they are facing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Christians, and thank you for your very important questions, and we most definitely agree with you. Members, any further questions for a last round before I hand over to the department just to respond to Member Christians' question? I do not see any hands. HOD, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Obviously, we're in the hands of maybe Ms. Dudley and Mr. Toy to talk, but what I do want to just say to colleagues on the line is that the first thing is that the child's development is never a straight line. The education system has to structure itself in order to accommodate all our children, but then on average, what should the average child be able to do? And then obviously we give support to the weaker learners, and obviously the ones that excel, we stimulate in a different way. In our system, for the foundation phase, we only keep a learner back once in that phase, and generally the learner advances. What we generally find with children, if they do get exposed to all the various areas, they do develop at different rates and they mature at different rates. I think that's all I can say at this point, Chairperson. Maybe to give the assurance that we will not disadvantage any child. I think that's the assurance that the department can actually give. I'm not sure if any others want to add to that. But I think that's really what the committee needs to be assured of, that the department, in terms of its approach, every learner who presents, we take that learner in, we provide whatever programs we have based on the best knowledge available at the time. I see Ms. Lucas' hand is up, and then maybe Dr. Mula wants to wrap up.
Thank you, SG. We don't retain children in early childhood development, birth to 4 years old, because they are still developing. We believe in the holistic development of a child, and they are obviously, exactly as you said, they develop at their own pace. So that is the norm.
I'm happy to add to Ms. Lucas's input, SG, if I may, Chairperson.
Sure, please go ahead, Dr. Mula.
Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Yes, Dr. Mula, you may talk. I'm sorry.
Just to address Member Christian's concern, I think it's a very valid one. It's a very valid question and concern. We ran a substantial baseline assessment this year, trying to engage in what is required by the CIAS policy, which many people on the call may be aware of, the screening, identification and assessment process, which talks to the value and importance, critical importance of early identification. So our assessments indicated that in fact, Member Christians is correct. Learners coming into grade 1 from grade R ECDs and versus those who are coming from grade R in public schools, the data is showing us that there is indeed a difference. Learners, and I'm stretching it and I'm cautious not to generalize too much, but there are some noticeable differences in some spaces where there is learners are coming in with grade R from an ECD center that is perhaps, and I'll use this, I'll use inverted commas to capture this, are not on the same standard as the learner who moves into grade 1 from a grade R public school. But what I think is quite important is two things. The exemption to move into another grade does not apply to grade R. So where there is a need, we are still holding on to that child. In other words, we are allowing a child who is in grade R to repeat grade R and then enter into grade 1, having done grade R twice without then needing to apply the rule of repeating only once in a grade. I am an educational psychologist by profession and therefore apply all of the rulings and understandings of child development, which talks to early identification and early intervention as absolute. So the earlier we intervene, the repeat in grade R is much more beneficial to the child rather than moving them on and then looking at a repetition of a grade 2, grade 3, for example. So the exemption rule will apply. That's the one aspect. The other is, as soon as, because we're engaging in the early identification assessments at grade R, grade 1, we are then able to institute an intervention and support program as early as when the child is 5 years old. And that's the way in which we are working, especially within the public school space. Hence the need for us to have ECD centers. I used this phrase loosely earlier, to let go of grade R and allow for us to be able to provide quality learner support and teacher support within the grade R space, either within the public ordinary school or within the public special school. I trust that that will suffice for now, but we are happy certainly from the Directorate Inclusive and Specialized Education. We are happy to provide a more substantial written response should the Standing Committee require this going forward. Thank you.
Chair, just from my side as well, we have teams that are available within our specialized learner support unit to go out and support any ECD center, you know, to look at testing of learners, etc. And so the office stands, Chairperson, if any of the members are aware of sites where there's a requirement for, you know, to support the children a bit better, we can make a team available to visit those ECD centers and provide them with the professional services, you know, to look at physical growth of the learners, the diet the learners are eating, etc., and provide valuable input as well around CIAS, you know, as in terms of pathways for learners within a particular ECD setup. So our rapid response teams are available. And if anybody is aware, they're most welcome to contact either myself or Dr. Muller, and we'll make those teams available to visit the centers to provide those professional services as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, HOD. I'm sure the members will make use of your offer and communicate that to the rest of the province. Members, that concludes our committee deliberations. Thank you to the department for your responses and members for your questions. As promised, we will now move over to inputs from members of the public. I have received a request from 6 members of the public that wish to make inputs. I have seen some of them online. I will afford everyone up until 3 to 4 minutes for your inputs. Please note that this will not be a question and answer session, although I will allow the HOD the opportunity for some high-level responses at the end. The first request was from Mr. Peter Makute. I have not seen him online. The second one was from Mr. Osman Saib. I also see that he just raised his hand. Mr. Osman, you are welcome to address the committee. Please also just state which organization you represent if you are here in that capacity. Over to you. Mr. Osman, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you are muted, perhaps. Okay. While Mr. Osman sorts out his microphone, we will come back to you, Mr. Saib. I think you might just have a problem with the microphone on your side. But while you sort that out, I have seen Miss Colleen Daniels online. Miss Daniels, if you can hear me. Maybe I should just check if anyone can hear me. Maybe the problem is on my side.
Can hear you, Chair?
Okay, wonderful. Either Ms. Daniels or Mr. Saib, you are welcome to address the committee, but I have also seen Ms. Thelma Lee. Ms. Thelma Lee, if you can hear me. I have noted her earlier in the meeting. I'm not sure if she is still in the meeting. Let me just confirm. Mr. Osman, yes, we just can't hear you. So if you have sorted out your microphone, you are welcome to unmute yourself and address the committee. I can see that you unmute, but then when you start speaking, I can't hear you. So, okay, any other members of the public that I might have missed that's not on my list? Let me just check the chat function. I see there was a comment from, okay, Mr. Osman will try another network apparently, and I have given any other members of the public the opportunity to speak. Ms. Hassan Musa.
Hi, Chair. Mr. Osman has just left the meeting. He will rejoin. If you can just give him a few seconds and then he'll rejoin again.
That's fine with me. Thank you, Ms. Hassan Musa. Let's just afford Mr. Osman the opportunity to rejoin.
Chair, Mr. Osman has rejoined.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
There we go. We can hear you now, Mr.
Okay.
Osman.
Apologies for that. I'm not sure what happened there. So
No worries.
it's Osman Sahib. I'm representing an organization called Ukukulisa Early Childhood Development Center. We're in existence for the last 10 years, and we've managed to open 7 ECD centers in underprivileged areas. The question I have is 4 of our schools have registered and are currently on bronze status, one of our schools are now on silver status. The question I have is the process is taking so long. My concern is the schools that are on bronze status, how long it's going to take before they move over to silver, because I believe that period is only a year. So if we can just get some direction regarding the status of the schools that are on bronze, that's one. Number two, my concern, or at least as an NGO, isn't there better support organizations like us can receive? So we are not organized. So as a professional organization that's registered with, as an NPO, we even registered with SARS, which can offer Section 18. We even have our financials that are audited, and we would like to expand our footprint in the community, especially in areas like Kalicha, Delft, and surrounding areas, Philippines, and so forth. Isn't there any way that the department can support us better, because we have the infrastructure, obviously some private funding, because most of our students are not paying. So we are targeting those students that currently are not attending any ECD. So I'd like to know if there is any sort kind of partnership that the government or the department can have with organizations like Ukukulisa, so that we can work together, and number one, and number two, expand at the faster rate, so, and it provide, and the the organization can expand their footprint with the support of the of government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osman. We appreciate your inputs. Any other members of the public that wish to make inputs at this point? I have seen Ms. Daniels is still online, but I do not see. I see a hand from a Rushni Ali.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much. Apologies, man. I joined the meeting a bit late. I'm also from Ukukulisa ECJ. And I got the tail end of the meeting, obviously. Is one of the reasons why you're having this meeting, and the gist of what I'm getting at, is it that the government wants to move towards taking grade R from ECDs because it would ultimately better? Oh, am I misunderstanding that, or did I just get the wrong end of the stick?
Thank you, Ms. Rushni Ali. Any other members of the public that wish to make inputs at this point?
Okay, hi, Colleen. I've managed to unmute.
Oh, wonderful. Over to you, Colleen.
May I speak? Okay, good afternoon to everybody present. I've listened to the meeting and I just have some concerns regarding the statements that were made, and I think the previous speaker spoke about that. Do our schools have the capacity to accommodate all the grade R learners when currently they cannot accommodate grade 1 children or grade 8 children because of class capacity? I also listened to them talk about the curriculum, and children that come from ECD sites are lacking in the developmental level of the children that are at public schools. And I think it was very clearly articulated that children learn at different levels. And I think we're missing the pedagogy that children in 0 to 7 years learn best through play. And so my question also is, how does the department make allowance for children that are currently in ECD sites that are neurodivergent, and what does the department do about that? Because currently my school has been in existence for 38 years. I'm gold status. I'm fully compliant. Most of my learners go to the upmarket grade 1 schools, and the feedback from those schools are always very, very high recommendations of children that come from my school, because education is my passion. So I would like to know, and we don't receive any funding. I would like to know what is the stance of the department on children that are neurodivergent? How are they capacitated in the school programs? Because I've got 2 children that have been put out of a grade R class at a public school that's at my school at the moment because the teacher couldn't handle them. And I'm not slating anybody here, I'm stating facts. So every child has the capacity to learn, irrespective of their ability. How do we ensure that every child has an equal opportunity in a school to learn at the pace that they can learn? And I also have a question that we were also registered, but we're told we have to wait 1 year before we can apply for a subsidy. And all my teachers are qualified. They're also moving towards getting the B.Ed. And the last question that I'd like to ask is, would the department consider, or what are the considerations or the criteria needed to register a private grade 1, 2, and 3 classroom? Because I see that our children that are neurodivergent are really lost in the system, and I'd like to start a school to accommodate those children. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak.
Thank you very much, Ms. Daniels, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. HOD, I will now afford you the opportunity for some high-level responses based on the inputs from the members of the public. You are also welcome to ask some members of your team if they are in a position to perhaps answer some of the questions. As I've said in the beginning, it's not going to be a back and forth with questions and answers, but I normally afford the officials from the department the opportunity to respond some of the inputs or questions if they are in a position to do so. So HOD, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me thank members of the public for the questions. Chairperson, I'll just make a broad comment, and then if Ms. Dr. Mola and or Ms. Lucas see if they can just briefly respond to 1 or 2 of the questions. Obviously, Chairperson, members of the public are also free to approach the department through our email addresses, which are publicly available. I would suggest that that be done, Chair, so that we can take up some of the, let's just say, specific issues that have actually been raised in this meeting. My broad comment would be that we are committed as an education department to make sure that every learner has the best opportunity. And we have embraced grade R, Chairperson. We've indicated clearly we're on a learning curve as a country, because we've taken over something, and we will see maturity in that system in a few years, countrywide. So the decision to put grade R in will take us time to get everybody there, but we will get there. And the same thing with ECD, Chair. I'm not an expert on pedagogy. I know there are different views. I think the department's approach is to make sure that every learner is given the best opportunity to be the best version of themselves. And that's just really, I think, how we would like to run the system. So with that being said, Chair, let me ask Dr. Mola or Ms. Lucas if they have anything else to add based on the specific questions that were asked.
Thank you, HOD. I will just speak generally as well. Thank you for the questions from the members of the public. I'd like the gentleman who spoke first to perhaps leave his email address on the chat bar, so that, or pass it on to Ms. Hassan Musa, so that we can communicate via email to him in terms of procedures for application for registration as independent schools, etc. Also, in terms of ECD centers, where we use the model of the social sector organizations, potentially there would be a possible kind of approach where we may expand that, and Mr. Osman is welcome to make application when that becomes available. I want to speak to the second person from that same organization. I unfortunately didn't get your name. But I wanted to say that grade R is compulsory now in terms of the legislation as per Bella. And they're saying it forms part of the general public ordinary system. So we now talk about grade R to 12 and not grade 1 to 12 as what we did in the past. So therefore, there is a move to formalize grade R into the mainstream school structures. Then to the colleague, Ms. Daniels, who spoke about her particular center. I'm extremely pleased to hear, in terms of the qualifications of the staff that she has at her center, as well as the kind of comments from schools to whom she provides the learners or prepares the learners for. It's very wonderful to hear that that level of competence, does exist within ECD sector. I don't think we're saying that it's difficult to make a broad sweeping statement and saying, all the learners from ECD centers are doing, a little worse than what others from other centers are doing. I think the point that Ms. Dudley was trying to make was to say that there is a difference, but we've not yet quantified exactly what that difference is and in which pockets and in which areas the difference is greater or less. And I know for a fact that there are some ECD centers that are doing exceptionally well in terms of their grade R programs, and really, as Ms. Daniels has indicated, are very well received by high-performing schools as learners that potentially make significant difference in the academic programs at these public ordinary schools. I want to also just say to Ms. Daniels to also leave her email address with Ms. Hassan Musa, so that we can get that as well. And I'll ask the director ECD to meet with Mrs. Daniels just to establish exactly what her requirements are, and then we're able to take it forward from there, and then see how we can assist Ms. Daniels as well with the questions that she has raised. But thank you, Ms. Daniels and the others with working within the sector. Making and creating spaces for learners is not something we alone can do. We are trying to build back as quickly as we can. But of course, you know that budgets for infrastructure projects are not very easily come by. And so we're building as we can, and creating more classrooms that we can at schools for grade R. We also purpose building grade R classes at a number of schools, hopefully within the next year still. And that will help us to take in a few more learners. But of course, we are very clearly in acknowledging we will not be able to accommodate all of them right now, but over time, we are definitely working to accommodate them within the public only school system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. Can we hand back to you?
Thank you very much, HOD and Mr. Mayor, for your responses. And to the members of the public for posing your questions. Thank you very much. We have noted your contact details in the chat box. And if you have any submissions or if there are anything that we can assist you with as a standing committee, you have the contact details of our procedural officer, Ms. Hassan Wissa, and she will also direct your concerns or questions that you might have through the committee to the department, and we will also keep track of the responses on that. To the department, HOD, to you and your team, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. You and your team, you are free to leave the meeting now, as well as the members of the public. I would just like to ask the committee members to stay behind so that we can conclude some of our administrative tasks that we have to deal with. Thank you, HOD and members of the public.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. Ms. Hassan Musa, I just want to ask you, okay, there we go. I see that we have all the members left in the meeting. Members, I would propose that we first deal with our resolutions from today's meeting or request for information. I'm sure Ms. Hassan Musa captured the request for information from Member Windvogel and Member Christians. But before I hand over to you, Ms. Hassan Musa, I just want to afford members the opportunity for new resolutions. I see the hand of Member Walters.
Thank you, Chair. There's two things that popped into my mind, listening at the presentations and also the interaction with the various interest groups and the stakeholders. One is I would like to propose that we understand the challenges around the scalability of ECD centres. To me, that it's clearly the model we're moving towards is finding a good way of creating an ecosystem that reaches every child in the Western Cape in terms of ECD centres. And there's various types of ECD centres, various types of styles, or pedagogy was the word used there. But what came out there is scalability. And I think it's more than just a simple case of money being spent. I think it's something that speaks to a localized effort that people want to expand. And so I would like to suggest that we explore whether it's an oversight visit or whether it is by having a discussion on it, or alternatively a presentation, but what are the challenges around scalability of ECD centres? Then a second suggestion that I have is, it's really a request for information. What is the mechanism that the department uses to engage with ECD centres and NGOs in this space? And what is the mechanism and how does it work? Thanks.
Thank you, Member Walters. Member Windvogel, you're at the second hand.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, mine is, I want to understand from the department how many ECDs are receiving funds and how many of those are in rural areas. Then secondly, Chair, I'm not sure how to formulate this, but when it comes to funding, the National Treasury has added, when I looked at the presentation, 342 million to the 26-27 budget for the progressive equalization of remuneration of qualified grade R educators. So what is the Western Cape share of this allocation, and how many practitioners or educators will benefit, and what improvement in remuneration will they receive? If I can get that clarity from the department. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Member Windvogel. Ms. Hassan Musa, I just want to confirm if you managed to capture a summary of Member Windvogel's input. Okay, I see a thumbs up. Member Clausen.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, my concern or my issue is with the unregistered ECD centers, especially those in the rural areas. Is there a possibility that we as a committee can do some oversight to understand what the scale of unregistered ECDs that operates in our communities is? Because my concern is immediately the quality of education provided to those first-time learners.
Thank you, Member
Thank
Claassen.
you.
I note your concern and I completely agree with you. I do, however, just think that it's impossible for this committee to sort of figure out where all the unregistered ones are. But I do think that we can perhaps try to identify one or two or three and then do a unannounced visit to those. I don't think that is unreasonable. Member Christians and then Member Walters.
Thank you, Chair. And I think my whole questioning, and I mean, I really did not, try to make the ECDs as bad as, that was not the intention to make them that they are inefficient and all of that. I think my concern still is, and it will remain, that I am extremely concerned that, and that was just also mentioned today, when a person when a child is at the ECD and a child is at a public ordinary school, you don't get the same quality. Not all, I must emphasize, not all, but there's some ECDs. Children do not get the same quality education because of, I don't know if it's because of the educators not being skilled enough, but there is, some of our children are not ready as the public ordinary schools. And that is a major concern. It was also mentioned by one of the officials that it is so. It's a proven fact. So I don't know how to address that, because that is registered ECDs, and yet some of them is not on the same level. So I don't know, and maybe we must just maybe ask for documentation, those ECDs that are getting extra training and webinars and seminars. How do we upskill them, that they at least, that the child that goes to the ECD at least is on the same level when they enter grade one. That for me is a major, major concern. And maybe the last thing that I want to mention, there's only about 10,000 out in early childhood developed, 75,000 in. And now my problem is, like I said, if the department goes around and say, listen, you do not comply with the healthy the health standards, you don't comply with this, that, and the other, I don't think they could give us a time frame where they said, listen, you must comply in 6 months or so on. Because if it's health issues, health and safety issues, it's a major, major concern. And what they did not answer is, when they say, listen, we're not going to register you, you're not compliant, what do they do then? I mean, does the ECD close down, and where does the children go? I don't know if they have the authority to do that, but I'm concerned about those type of things. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Christians. We definitely note your concerns and we agree with some of the points that you've raised. I think in terms of forming a resolution, I will definitely listen to the recording again, and I'll have a conversation with you. And I think let's see how we can then formulate what you've just said into a resolution. Member Walters.
Yeah, just perhaps this will help, because I was thinking along the same lines. I think request for information, look, some of it was covered actually in previous presentations, but I think this will be more crystallizing it more in our minds. One would be, how does the department deal with and identify unregistered ECDs, and how do they regularize them if they're obviously up to standard? And then I think the second request for information is, what is the mechanism used to upskill ECDs to an acceptable level? What practically, how does it work?
Thank you for that, Member Walters. That most definitely helps. I just want to confirm, Ms. Hassan Musa, have you managed to sort of... Yes?
Jay, I've managed to capture everything. I will just double check it with the tapes that I haven't missed anything. But Member Walters, thank you for that. That's much appreciated. And then the other 4 outstanding items that the WCED had indicated that they will provide in writing, as they don't want to provide it now. In some cases, they did not have it. The breakdown of the money spent and the due date in writing that, the unregistered ECD, how many are there? Member Van Vogel indicated that. And then also the grade R learners that must still be registered. That was also captured, and 2 others. I will formulate everything and then provide you with a draft, Chair, that can be circulated to the members.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ms. Hassan Musa. Members, if you have any further recommendations, resolutions, requests for information, please share that with myself and Ms. Hassan Musa so we can include that in the draft. Okay, members, we've got some draft minutes and a report to adopt. The first set of minutes was from the committee meeting on the 2nd of June, which was a virtual meeting. The minutes was circulated. You can just check your attendance. I know that there was an apology from Member Christians on that day. If you can just briefly scroll through the minutes, it was on the 3rd and 4th quarterly performance report, including the financials and the non-financials. Briefing by the department, quite a straightforward meeting. If I can ask for a proposer and a seconder, if you attended this meeting.
I propose, Chair.
Thank you, Member Walters. And a seconder. Anyone to second the minutes? Ms. Hassan Musa, if you can just briefly flag the attendance again, if possible. Apologies for that. I just want to check the attendance.
Hold on second, Chair. I'll start it now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was proposed by Member Walters. So those to second, either Member Van Minnen or Member Syed. Member Syed is not present this morning, this afternoon, as Member Van Vogel was standing in for him. Member Van Minnen, can you perhaps second the minutes for us? If you can hear me. Okay. Ms. Hassan Musa, can we perhaps then move to the report first? Thank you, Ms. Hassan Musa. Members, you will remember the oversight visit to the Breerivier Hoërskool in Worcester. If you can just scroll down there we go, the members present, Member Walters, Van Vogel, Syed, Kaiser Philander, and myself. We had 2 apologies from Member Christians and Member Van Minnen for that oversight visit. Members, you have received the report together with the minutes. Scroll through them, there we go. Thank you very much, Ms. Hassan Musa. Members, can we adopt this report? Anyone to propose the adoption? Member Walters.
I propose, Chair.
Thank you very much. And Member Van Vogel, second. Wonderful. Thank you very much, members. Ms. Hassan Musa, in terms of the minutes, how will we deal with that draft set of minutes?
Chair, is Member Van Minnen not available to just second it?
I'll just confirm with her if she can hear me now.
She is
Ms. Van-
online.
I see her online. Ms. Van Minnen, can you hear us? Okay, no, she
Just let
can't.
me give her a quick call.
Apologies, are you going to give her a call?
Sorry, Chair, yes, I'm just going to give her a quick call to get her to just respond.
Thank you.
Chair, Member Van Minnen is just going to log back in. She's just, and then she will check and then she will second it. If you can just give her a minute or two, just a minute, sorry.
No worries. Thank you, Ms. Hassan Musa. I think you can then just flag the minutes for us while we wait for her. Thank you very much. Oh, there we go. Member Van Minnen, we've got two of you online now.
Thanks. So I can just second these minutes.
Thank you very much, Member Van Minnen. We've got two of your accounts logged on now. I'm guessing there was a technical issue with the other one.
Yeah, it's it's just crazy this time of year. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So we've got a member Walters to propose and member Van Minnen to second. Okay, wonderful. Ms. Hassan Musa, is that the business of the day?
Yes, Chair, that is the business of the day and the last meeting for education, and then we will resume again in November after the constituency period.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hassan Musa. Members, thank you for your attendance and participation this afternoon. All the best with the upcoming constituency responsibilities. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.